Does not distort facts. It's very disappointing that some of us should be distorting facts just because Professor Humphrey Nwosu is an Igbo man. Was it Justice Professor Humphrey Nwosu that made the military cabal to throw Nigeria into confusion? It is highly unfair, despite the pressure from Babangida government, despite the court order, Mr. President, allow me, despite the court order by Justice Ibeme that stopped the election, despite all the threats from the military cabal, the man still went ahead to conduct the freest and fairest election. Our personal biases, our personal sentiments, and our party affiliations to influence what we are doing here. So far I'm concerned, during the June 12 presidential election, I was a presiding officer. And yes, I just came out from secondary school. I was a presiding officer in that election. That election has been adjudged up to today the freest and fairest election in the history of Nigeria. Mr. President, any Nigerian that googles internet, which election is the freest and fairest election in Nigeria, is the June 12th presidential election. Professor Humphrey Nwosu, a professor of political science from the prestigious University of Nigeria, a civil servant, before he was appointed in 1989, did his best, despite the pressure from Babangida government, despite the court order, Mr. President, allow me, despite the court order by Justice Ibeme that stopped the election, despite all the threats from the military cabal, the man still went ahead to conduct the freest and fairest election. Was this Professor Humphrey Nwosu that made Justice Saleh from Katangum Emirate from Bauchi to annul the election? Was it Justice Professor Humphrey Nwosu that made the military cabal to throw Nigeria into confusion? It is highly unfair. One of my colleagues mentioned about the honor.
How was it going to remain my brother?
Is it because he belongs to a particular political party? Let us not distort facts. It's very disappointing that some of us should be distorting facts just because Professor Humphrey Nwosu is an Igbo man.
Thank you very much.
Allow this motion to speak.
Thank you, sir.
I rest my case.
Thank you. Please, order, please.
We had 3 prayers. The first prayer, which was for them, for the Senate to recommend to the executive that given the fact that Professor Humphrey Nwosu was the person who actually laid the foundation of the present INEC headquarters and commenced the building before that particular NEC was dissolved by the military in 1993. We felt that we should recommend that the executive names that INEC building after him. This is also in consonance with what Professor Jega, a former INEC chairman, said on Tuesday at the colloquium for Professor Humphrey Nwosu. Professor Jega said that he was surprised that up till this moment, Humphrey Nwosu has not been recognized or honored by the government of Nigeria, who today are benefiting from his plans and legacies in producing in 1993 the freest and fairest election. Don't forget that it was the outcome of the annulment of that election that led to the disturbances everywhere in Nigeria, that also led to the exit of the military in 1999, 6 years later. We had 2. We also had another that even if they don't do that they should also honor Professor Humphrey Nwosu by giving him a national honor. That's, of course, a posthumous honor. That was also rejected on the floor. Of course, the third one, which was for him to be honored by the Senate by giving him a 1-minute silence, was done. But we are not deterred. The reason is simple. It may be delayed, but it will not be denied. Professor Humphrey Nwosu was the person who laid the foundations that we are all enjoying today. And so, as far as we are concerned, we think that even if this government does not honor Professor Humphrey Nwosu, a government in future will honor him. After all, some other governments refused to recognize Abiola, but later a government recognized Abiola. Some other government didn't recognize June 12, but later a government recognized June 12th as our Democracy Day. So we believe that in the future, a government of this country will make sure that they recognize those who have actually sacrificed and used their everything to make Nigeria a better place. We want to thank, if, as we say, for those who continue to stand on June 12th, and those who sat on June 12th, and those who did everything on June 12th, including the government of today. If there was no election, there wouldn't have been any June 12th. Don't forget that there was a court order that was done by Justice Ikweme to stop the election, and he defied that court order and pushed back and made sure that an election held. If that election was not conducted, you won't be talking of results, and there will be no June 12th. So as far as we are concerned, Professor Nwosu deserves this honor.
To recall that without Professor Humphrey Nwosu's sagacity and courage, that election wouldn't have taken place. We are all aware that Justice Ikweme said that there shall be no election. By 9:30 in the morning on June 10th, Professor Humphrey Nwosu, audaciously without invitation, went to the National Defense and Security Council and insisted and convinced them that election process had commenced. That was why President Babangida allowed him to conduct the election. And if anybody is saying that he did not announce the result, the person is lying, because the results were being announced. In fact, they have announced 29. It was remained only Taraba State. And even when they ordered him to come to the Aso Rock, I want to tell you, he was even arrested. But he still ordered that Taraba be announced. So at what point will Hope Nwosu have announced that result? Is it in Aso Rock where they detained him? We must be serious. But the truth of the matter is that the Senate resolution is advisory. It's not even compelling. So we are urging President Tinubu to do the right thing by immortalizing Professor Humphrey Nwosu. Thank you.